Hello, everyone, and welcome to a tier list video. I know it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it, to do a tier list video at the end of your Danganronpa series, but I was requested to do it. You know who you are, commenter. So I know you know who you are. You're like the only one who does. Well, I mean that's not true. Obviously, I've had. I've had plenty of you guys, well, say plenty, by my standards, plenty of you guys actually, going on that Danganronpa journey with me. Kind of. You know the age-old story of that I recorded those, uh, a very long time ago. Which you can really see by the upload dates on the first few parts of Danganronpa 1. Yeah, it took a little longer to get through than I thought, especially since for a while I just didn't upload. For, like, no reason whatsoever. Well, I say that. I think, like, a small part of me was just going through that very self-conscious phase of being embarrassed to post things to YouTube, especially when they're not, like, the highest quality. In terms of, like, a lot of things, let's be real. Yeah, enough about me. That's not what this is about. This is about this tier list. The Danganronpa character tier list, where I will be going through all the characters from basically bits of the series that I have either talked about or done stuff with on... Well, basically just done stuff with on the channel. Because obviously we've got all the characters from the mainline games, the Ultra Despair Girls cast, the Bears, and the anime cast. And also featuring canon, or I guess Kanon, because I have, read the bonus material that features her, which I did on the channel. So before we jump right into actually tiering the characters, we want to talk about the tiers and I guess how I'm rating them. Yeah, we'll roll with that. So, not a character tier. I mean, I fully appreciate that that's not an accurate title. These four at the bottom obviously are, but I've never read Danganronpa Zero. I purposely didn't, just in case. You guys would be interested in doing like a let's read of it. Which I don't think I've ever asked. So I'll ask now, would you guys want me to read Danganronpa Zero on the channel? If not, it's been years and I just haven't read it for no reason. Oops. I mean, I kind of know what it's about. I know what the general gist of things are, and I sort of know how it ends, but I don't know, like, the nitty-gritty bits of it. Well, I mean, obviously I know how it ends. It's Danganronpa. But yeah, then, like, pretty much all of these guys on the top are just the fucking victim car thingy-madoodads in Ultra Despair Girls. I again know that some of them do appear in bonus material, but it's bonus material I haven't read for one reason or another. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. I have read, like, a little bit of Danganronpa Kirigiri, but not so much as, or not so far as for Old Man here to have appeared. And I guess the last one to mention is Kyondo. Like, as far as I'm concerned, he and Taka are exactly the same. Like, this guy is just Taka. Like, it's Taka. It's a bit of Taka's character. I appreciate that might be a little hypocritical to some, that I've got Jill as her own thing, and not just put her in here, considering that I, in particular, see these two as a package deal. And I will, by nature of that, be placing these two side by side and talking about them in conjuncture with each other, but So, actual tier lists here. Why are they these tiers? was to cut out the middleman of you having to ask me what my favorite or what my list of the games are, you know? Easy peasy. V3 is my favorite, Danganronpa 2 is my least favorite. Boom. Easy. If you didn't know this about me, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna fight you about it in the comments. That's not what this video is about. But okay, you know what, actually, to keep it on brand, we'll make this the Danganronpa 3 tier. Sorry, Danganronpa 3. If you've watched my video on it, I actually like Danganronpa 3, but it is still my least favorite entry in the series. At least, again, as far as I've, engaged in the channel. Now, what I'm actually going to be grading the characters on is not entirely, it's not subjective or objective. Not fully in either way. I'm not going to be ranking these characters exactly by how, much I like them entirely. I want to fit in some, objectivity in there. Which is why, well, partially it's just to add some spice here. If you've watched my series, you kind of already have a feel for where these characters are going to end up. And I'm not going to lie to you. I will be putting some characters down here, and by some I mean one down here in Danganronpa 3 tier, despite the fact that they are a character amongst these. But, for the most part, this shouldn't be too complicated. V3 are the characters that not only do I like, but I think are the best executed. Danganronpa 1 is, slightly less than that. UDG is sort of, your middle ground. These are the characters I don't really have strong feelings about either way. But, I mean, to be fair, considering that it is the Danganronpa casts, I like pretty much everyone. Same with the games. I like them all. It's just that I like them more than others. Super Danganronpa 2 is, I lean more on either not liking them or thinking they're a poorly executed character. And Danganronpa 3 is the bad tier as far as the characters are concerned. Not for these guys, but anyone else who ends up here is pretty much the worst of the worst. But again, it's not entirely either objective or subjective. If a character's not greatly executed, but I like them, they're not going to be down here. If I don't like them, but I think they're greatly executed, they're not going to be down here. So, it works. Okay, let me spoil some things for you then, right? To give an example of this. We'll go Danganronpa 2, because I know that's where my most controversial, quote-unquote, takes come from. And in saying that, I'm going to give you a not very controversial take. I really like Mihiru. She's best girl from Danganronpa 2. But I don't think she's complex enough, or quite complex enough and well done, for V3 tier. She will probably be in, top of Danganronpa 1 tier. Maybe, as we go on, I'll put her in, bottom of V3 tier. But, as much as I love her, I don't think she quite stacks up to the other characters who would be in V3 tier. If you know what I mean. And then, where we start with, Akane, if it was purely based on personal opinions, she would be down here. In fact, she'd be down there, because I fucking hate Akane. She does absolutely fucking nothing for me at all. And I've gone in length as to why in the actual series itself. I just don't like her at all. I don't find her endearing or charming in any way. I hate her character arc because it's not a character arc. The building blocks are there for one, but just having her cry at the end of chapter 4 isn't enough. At all. And going forward, she doesn't learn from that. At all. She's the exact same post-chapter 4. Look, there are people who like Akane, and that's fine. I just hate her. But it's those building blocks of something that's good that I think puts her in Super Danganronpa 2 tier. She's not the worst the series has, I don't think. Just because she's my least favorite character does not mean she's the worst. And there are some merits to Akane. I think the building blocks, again, of her arc, with, like, I guess, to put it simply, like, coming to rely on other people, is a good arc. It's a very good idea. I just don't think it's executed well. I was going to say executed well. I don't think it's executed at all, really. And that's really my biggest problem with Akane. Angie. I don't. She doesn't quite make top tier, but I think she's Danganronpa 1 tier. I love Angie. Again, if you've watched V3, you probably know this. Maybe you wouldn't have expected her this high, but I love Angie. I think she's such a good antagonist for Chapter 3 and, like, the beginnings of well, not the beginnings, but, like, how she's set up in Chapter 2. Mwah, she's wonderful. And you know why? It's because she's not just a black and white villain. Genuinely, that is all it really takes for her to be a good antagonist in Danganronpa. Because, look, speaking as, one of the clearly minority who just love their villains, Danganronpa has some shit villains. Like, oh my god, some of them are awful. A lot of them are awful. Well, maybe not a lot of them, but some of them are really shit. And we will get to those later. But yeah, I think Angie does a super good job. She's intimidating, but also, like, you can kind of see where she's coming from. And she's also charismatic enough that she gets people on her side. I think her design's really cute. I think she is done a little dirty dying in Chapter 3. But at the same time, I really can't imagine her going forward. I feel like it was the right place for her to die. And, like, yeah, it was the most obvious, like, victim in the game, like, by far. But, yeah. I think it's fine. But as an overall character, like, beyond her role as an antagonist, I don't think it's quite... I don't think it's as good as other characters in the series. Looking at her free time events, it's not... Like, I don't really understand Angie the person, Beyond the ideology stuff with Atua, and, like, how that influenced her actions in Chapter 3. Like, yeah, I understand that. But, like, anything else about Angie? I don't know. I appreciate that, sometimes mystery is nice. But when most of your character is a mystery, and it's just like, I know nothing about you, and that's not fully the intention, because we'll get to someone else who's like that later. I don't think it works that well with Angie, but I still think as an antagonist she's fantastic. I know I have just boiled her down to antagonist only, and that's not entirely fair to her. But for me, that's the thing about Angie that sticks out the most, right? Like, her role as an antagonist and how brilliant it is. I guess before we move on to Hina, I suppose, put my 2 cents in on the whole Atua thing. Not in the sense of, like, her using Atua. I mean Atua being, like, a real god. And, I mean, I don't see a problem with it, to be honest. Because, like, what? In the Japanese version, she's Christian, right? And God is just... God is God. Big G. Capital G God. And, like, I suppose this is dipping into, like, personal ideology. Well, I guess personal beliefs around this sort of, like, I don't know, representation, I guess? But, like, to me, if you perceive Angie's whole character as, like, making fun of a smaller culture, one, I think you're stupid, and two, I think you've entirely missed the point. And I mean, look, I know it's easy to take a pot shot on Christianity, but if you interpreted Angie that way, and she was Christian, like you're still taking again, if you interpret her that way, like she would still be taking a massive dump on a world religion, and a lot of people's beliefs. Like I just don't think that there's any like social commentary going on with Angie and her tour. Like really don't. And I think there's it's just sort of blowing. Like if you're offended or something by like Angie being an example of a religion, I'm sorry. That's a bit much for me. I don't think that's fair or true. But yeah, that's that. Hina, you know what? I've taken a very long time to get through this, haven't I? To this point, I think we're gonna speed up a little bit from here because I mean Hina's just like super UDG tier. Like I have nothing special to say about Hina, and I think that's the problem with like quite a few characters. There's just like nothing special going on. She's not bad, but she's not really like that good either. Hina's not very interesting. She has like her thing in Danganronpa 2. Danganronpa 2? What the fuck? She has a thing in chapter 4 of Danganronpa 1. Where the fuck was I going with that? I guess I just looked at Akane down there. Like she has her thing there with Sakura. That's about it. Yeah, that's Hina. Like Hina's super middle ground for me. There's not much going on. But again, she's not bad. She sort of, again, falls into another problem that quite a few Danganronpa characters fall into, in that they're likable. Like, they're super nice people. I can totally see why people would like them, but they're not very interesting. Like, they aren't interesting enough to get into V3 or Danganronpa 1 tier, and that's really what's going to put them here in UDG. There are definitely characters who I will probably say almost nothing about because they are just Hina to me. Byakuya. I'm gonna probably upset someone by saying that he's gonna be our first V3 tier, I think. I think as simple as his character is, I think it's done very well. I think his character arc, admittedly, I think you can argue that it's a little too abrupt. There isn't really a build up for him to like work with the group in Danganronpa 1. But at the same time, it's not as if he suddenly becomes nice either. Like if Byakuya was suddenly a super nice guy to everyone in chapters 5 and 6, then I would agree that it's a bit too quick of a turnaround for him. But he doesn't. He's still an asshole. He's just not working against you semi-actively. Yeah, I think his free time events are really solid. They explain his character very well. Yeah, they're not. I don't have anything else to say actually. Oh, Celeste. Oh, I mean, from a personal point of view, I want to put her in Danganronpa 1 tier, but I don't know. Ugh. It's like I love her design, but beyond that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how good I can really say she is. Again, if you've watched my Danganronpa 1 Let's Play, you know I love Celeste. But is she really that good? Like, she's definitely better than Hina, like, for sure. But is she Danganronpa 1 tier? I'm gonna put her there for now, but that could change. Because Celeste, again, isn't really a character that has that much going on. She's got the whole Queen of Lies shtick, and I think, considering that she's kind of the last murderer in Danganronpa 1, I think she's a good idea for a challenge. But because it's chapter 3, it can't be too hard. So, like, I don't know. I feel like Celeste would have been a more interesting antagonist if saved for like chapter 4, maybe. But I don't know. I like Celeste a lot. I like her a whole lot, but there's not much going on with her character, you know? Not beyond like the lies stuff, which I mean isn't really that central of a concept to her character, potentially outside of her free times, but you know. Oh, Chiaki! Another one who I will probably upset someone with. Yeah, UDG tier. I mean, she's the exact same as Hina. She's super nice. She's super sweet. But that's it. That's all she's got going on. Uh, I do like her better than Hina, I will say. Um, she grew on me quite a bit as the game went on, which again is a bit of a journey I went through with her. But she's not leaving mediocrity anytime soon. I can tell you that much. Chihiro. I think that's another Danganronpa 1 tier. I mean, for a character who dies, what, 4th? Chihiro's pretty important to the series overall. You can really feel his influence throughout a lot of Danganronpa 1 and 2. Well, I guess Danganronpa 2 is a bit of in retrospect, but Chihiro's a well done character within his own chapter, right? Like chapter 2 alone does such a good job with Chihiro, like setting out who he is, almost why he is the way he is, and I mean all that sort of stuff, all that nice like character stuff. In that chapter, he has a compelling story in that chapter, and that's all he really needs. Because like going forward, like alter ego sort of like carries on for Chihiro. They aren't the same character, but Chihiro at least feels like he has a presence later in the game because of it. Which is something that a lot of Danganronpa 1 characters suffer from. Like, as soon as they're dead, they're gone. Like, they're never mentioned again. Chihiro is the only one who's not like that, and it's purely because of alter ego. Like, I don't think anyone says Chihiro's name, but again, because of alter ego, you, as the player, feel that Chihiro's still there. But I think more importantly for me is that Chihiro's free time events don't entirely rely on just hinting towards the character stuff in the second trial. Something that I've been very vocal about in Danganronpa 2 and to a certain extent V3 is that certain characters just have nothing because everything in their character is related to a plot twist in the trial where they kill someone. Cough cough Teru Teru, cough cough Peko. And Chihiro's not like that. Chihiro's free time events stand pretty much on their own, at least as far as I remember. Of course, they tie in with the chapter 2 stuff, and I think that's a much better way to do it, rather than just be like, haha, there's this little piece of information, you might find that out later, right? That's not what it feels like with Chihiro, like, at all. So yeah, that's, I guess, my stance on Chihiro there. Fuyuhiko. Ooh, I think I'm gonna upset myself here. He's top of Danganronpa 1 tier. Because for as good as like his chapter 2 to 3, and like you can see semblances of it in chapter 4, as good as his development is there, he does nothing in chapters 1, 5, or 6. And that it hurts him a little bit. Granted, he leaves his mark really well, right? Like his chapter 2 and 3 stuff is phenomenal, and it like that'll stick out in your minds for a long time. Like that's it's good character stuff, but it's just not consistent enough for me. It's I have a lot of problems with Danganronpa 2, as I'm sure you're aware if you've heard me talk about it ever. And for the most part, like, I think Fuyuhiko is one of its shining examples in terms of main story character development, because he's like the only one, but he kind of just exists. He gets dropped off after his arc is done. And again, for as good as that arc is, because he's just so forgotten about, I don't know if I can put him in top tier. Maybe I will. Maybe he'll deserve bottom of V3 tier as we go on. But yeah. For now, Fuyuhiko's staying there. Again, like, his free time events are good, his character development is good, but then he just disappears off the face of the earth, and it's like, great! A character that I really liked is now just not here. Yeah, again, for as much as I really like Danganronpa 2's fifth case, Nagito steals the spotlight in a bad way. Like, he completely removes the agency from every other character in the game except Hajime, and that's only because you're playing as him. And then, Chiaki, when you figure out she's the traitor and the murderer, which is at the end of the chapter. Yeah, one of many problems I have with Nagito. But yeah, okay, we'll get to him later. Gonta! Bottom of UDG, easy. He is the same as these two. Super likable guy. And that's about it. Like, that is... Like, does Gonta have anything else going on? Again, I like him. But what the hell else is going on with his character, you know? Like... honestly, he might deserve SDR2, to be honest, but I think he's got enough going on that he can be in UDG. Probably bottom of it, but I think he can be here, right? Again, super sweet guy. And on having a degree of, like, depth to him, with, like, the whole gentleman stuff, the fact that the ultimate message of his free time events is to, like, do things for yourself rather than for other people. And not in, like, a... Okay, the way I put that. Not in, like, a selfish way, but, like, don't be something for other people. Be someone for yourself. Like, that's the sort of overall message I got from Gonta's free time events. And I think that's a really sweet message. It like, if the game ran with that as, like, his character thing, I think he could be up here. But it's just sort of there in his free time events, and that's it. Which is, it's gonna land him here. Gundham... I think my character bias might be a little too strong here. But, boop! Bottom of V3 tier. Look, definitely a part of my love for Gundham is the vocal performance. It's wonderful. I love Chunibyo characters. Again, if you've seen the playthrough, I know that Sonya isn't really that interesting or that good, but I think she's hilarious, and that makes me love her. Yeah, there's not too much going on with Gundham until chapter 4, and even then it's like the after trial stuff. But I mean, leading up till that, sure, he's a fairly flat character, but he's very memorable, he's very entertaining, and chapter 4 makes him interesting in a way that no one else we've talked about so far is interesting, except arguably Byakuya. But whereas Byakuya's whole ideology stuff was split between his free time events and the main story, with a bit more of an emphasis on his free times, Gundam's, while it is entirely loaded into one scene, is in the main story, and I think that's more important. I think putting big stuff like that is kind of crucial to understanding your character, putting it in optional content is probably not the best idea. You can certainly have supplementary stuff in optional content, but such, like, crucial information about a character like Gundham, needs to be in the main story. I know I'm like vaguely dancing around like specifics with all of these guys because like I could talk for actual years, and this video will be too long if I do that. But also because I only want this to be I don't want this to be completely spoilerific. Just in case, someone stumbles upon it randomly and doesn't listen to the spoiler warning that is just a Danganronpa tier list video. So, I want to be a little bit vague, but also because, I don't remember everything. Every minute detail. Yeah, like, Byakuya's motivations and shit are pretty much just in his free time events. Like, they trickle into the main story, but they're pretty much just in his free time events. And I don't think that makes for as compelling of a character. Because you just, like, I think to a lot of people, Byakuya is just a dick. Like, to people who don't do his free time events, he's an asshole, and that's the extent of his character. Like, that is... He turns around at the end, ooh, but... Until then, he's just kind of there. Being an asshole. So yeah, but admittedly, I don't think Gundham... perhaps because it's all dumped into like one scene, I don't think he's as overall strong as Byakuya is as a character, but I do think what Gundham has is very unique, very interesting, and just the fun of Gundham as well puts him up here. That's a very subjective bit of this, but he'd be in the top half without my subjective opinion, I feel, but personal bias will bump him into V3. Hajime. That's... Oh. Now, I've mentioned this in a comment. I was, having a brief discussion with some people about this. My opinions on Hajime, they don't change a lot, but I've constantly got him in a battle between him and Komaru as to who I like better. And you know what? He's gonna be Danganronpa 1 tier. I think ahead of Celeste, but that's about it. I really like Hajime, I really do, but there are just some annoyances, shall we say, about his character that I just can't really put him any higher, and why ultimately I think Komaru is gonna take the spot ahead of him. I know a lot of people really like that Hajime is, he's a little more edgy, he's a little more like, oh my god, maybe even I could murder. And like that's refreshing, right? Like, it's very different from Makoto, who is a cardboard cutout anime protagonist. But at the same time, it's that attitude of Hajime's that makes me not like him as much. Again, not because he's like a dick, but it's because he feels so wrong, like, doing and saying some of the stuff he does. Like, in Chapter 3, for as fantastic of a moment as the whole, like, his whole spiel about believing in people thing is to Mikan, why does he say it? Why is that something that Hajime says? In Chapter 3, literally less than a chapter ago, the person who's supposed to be like the bro character of the game, Kazuichi, when they're hanging out, Hajime is pretty open in his mental thoughts about fucking hating his guts. And he really doesn't change going forward into Chapter 3, and then suddenly he drops a speech that should belong to Chiaki. Like, realistically. I genuinely think these two should have swapped the dialogue in that scene, Where it's like, Chiaki has the whole spiel about finding the truth, or like, believing and doubting in people. And then Hajime comes in with the, yeah, I agree with that sort of thing. Instead of that Chiaki does that, and Hajime has the big spiel. I think it makes no sense. Equally, the fact that he doesn't like Kazuichi makes the whole bromance thing. What? Why? should I feel something in chapter 4 when Kazuichi's like, oh, you might be the traitor? No, I'd feel nothing, because those two have a bad relationship. Like, or a bad friendship, I should say. They aren't friends. And then you do their free time events, and Kazuichi's are so good and really fill that void that I feel like the game wanted there to be in the main game, but there just wasn't. And it's very petty, I suppose. But it's flaws in, it's not really flaws, but so much as it's writing flaws like that make me, I can't say that Hajime is better than these, because his writing is kind of sloppy. But, I mean, that's just Danganronpa 2's writing for you. It is sloppy. And to be fair, you know, there's a good reason for that. I'm sure you're probably, well, I say I'm sure, you may be aware of the fact that Danganronpa 2 was kind of made on a bit of a time crunch. Like, Danganronpa 1 was supposed to be a standalone game. It was just that. That's why it's got a cliffhanger ending. You know, you were supposed to sort of make up your own, like, how did you think things were going to go? And then, of course, you know, the series had to explain it. So, oops. But because it was quite a success, Kodaka was forced to kind of make a second game, like, as soon as possible. And I think that comes through in the character writing, most of all. And, of course, the fact that it borrows everything from Danganronpa 1, Junko's the villain again, and the main thing for me, every character in Danganronpa 2, in the main story, is comic relief. And they are not any more complex than that, with some exceptions. Fuyuhiko, Hajime, and I'm going to say Mihiru as well. Not because, again, in Mihiru's case, it's not because she's complex, it's because she's the straight man to the antics of everyone else. Again, same with Hajime, and to a certain extent, same with Fuyuhiko, except that, you know, our two boys are around for the whole game and they get full character arcs. Mihiru doesn't, unfortunately. But, yeah, if you play through Danganronpa 2, you can tell everyone is there as comic relief, and that's all they're there for. And I do think that hurts the game a little bit, because then you go into their free time events, and so many of them are so good, but it's like, why wasn't any of this in the main story? Huh? Oh, that's right, because Kodaka was on a time crunch, and considering who his favorite characters from Danganronpa, who his favorite characters to write for in Danganronpa 1 and 2 were, Toko and Ibuki respectively, I'm pretty confident in saying that, like, humor is Kodaka's, like, comfort zone of writing. So of course everyone in the main story was comic relief. He needs to crack that shit out fast. He needs to write what he's comfortable with. And I think that hurts the game and its characters, at least in the main story, quite a bit. That was too long a spiel, but I needed to get it out. I needed to say that at some point or another. And I think it's right to say that with Hajime. Hifumi, I know I've defended the man before. Like, I've said that I think he's a little unfairly hated. But, I mean, he's going on in Danganronpa 2 tier. He's kind of boring. Again, an issue that I will forever bring up. Makoto doesn't want to do his free time events. And that just makes them feel, ugh. Like, I don't hate Hifumi. I think he's fine. He's not even my least favorite character from Danganronpa 1. But there's just not really anything going on here, you know? He just kind of exists, and he's there, and he's sometimes funny, he's sometimes a bit creepy, a bit too creepy, and he has okay free time events. Really, that's it. I have just told you Hifumi, and that's why he is in a bottom tier. Himiko! I cannot believe other people do not share this opinion, and if you don't, I'm sorry to say that you are objectively wrong, because Himiko is, without a doubt, one of the best characters in the series. I genuinely do not understand why people don't like Himiko. Like, I'm sorry. I just genuinely do not get it. Again, this is something that I said a couple of times in the V3 Free Time series. If Himiko died in Chapter 2, I would completely understand why people don't like her. Because the whole Magician's Code thing, I appreciate that not everyone's going to know that. Not everyone's going to know that she would probably lose her talent if she spoke about... or lose the right to her talent if she spoke about her magic as if they were, like... if they were tricks. But that's not really relevant beyond that point. And she has a really good and compelling arc from chapters 3 to the end of the game about, like, embracing emotion, being vulnerable to other people, sharing your woes, trying to trust other people again, and it ties in brilliantly with her free time events, because, presumably, she became the way she was in chapters 1 and 2 because of the rocky relationship she ended up having with her magic master, or a teacher, I guess I should say. And thanks to Tenko, you see her evolve beyond that. She learns to open back up to people. And then in chapters 4 and 5, you see her trying really hard. Too hard, in fact. She tries way too hard to be friendly with people. Like, I think the obvious one is the fact that she dips into calling Maki roll. She's the only character other than Kaito who does that. Not even Shuichi does. Because I think everyone realizes that, that's kind of their thing, right? But Himiko doesn't, because she has, like, no social skills. And that is, like, it's endearing. And the fact that she tries so hard is endearing. Like, I'm sorry, I don't get the hate. I really don't. Like, maybe, I guess, because she sort of becomes more comic reliefy towards the end of the game, because really, she's the only comic relief left by, like, by the time we get to her character development, who's the comic relief left? Miyu? So, yeah. I can kind of get it if you don't like the humor they went for with Himiko. But you've still got to appreciate the fact that her character arc is so... It's a good character arc, it's well executed, it trickles into the main story and free time events, and she has stuff other than that going on. And she's relevant, like, it's relevant into the end of the game. I suppose I should say throughout the rest of the game rather than into the end of the game, but I mean, that's just pedantics of speech. Unlike Fuyuhiko, she doesn't get dropped. I know it might be hard, like, it's not as in your face, right? As, like, the fact that she takes center stage in chapters 2 and 3. In chapters 4 and 5, she does take a comparative backseat, but she's still involved. She still has this stuff with her obvious awkwardness and social ineptitude. Fuyuhiko doesn't. He drops off the face of the earth after chapter 3. He gets, like, a little bit in chapter 4 when he's, like, talking to Akane. And when he's, the silent moment of him sitting in the, is it Strawberry Lounge that the boys are in? In, like, the Strawberry loungy hall bit when he sees Nekamaru going down the stairs. Like, at that moment, like, Fuyuhiko has a little bit extra. But that's 2 examples. And I know, like, okay, I admit, I gave 2, I didn't even give 2 examples total for Himiko, but my point is that there's more for Himiko throughout the whole thing, I love her as well. I love her design. I love her talent. I even love the dopey, yeah, I'm tired thing in chapter 1 and 2. Look, I'm sorry. My personal bias is totally influencing this. But also, she's just better than most people give her credit for. She's also, like, integral to the whole escapism theme of Danganronpa V3. Like, escapism versus, like, expressionism. The Angie versus Tenko conflict, basically. I think she's really fucking good. And that's something that I will fight you on. Now, Hiyoko, another character you may know that I think is really fucking good, but gets so short-strawed that I genuinely don't think I can put her in the tier I want to. Hiyoko's down here. I'd like to put her in Danganronpa 1 tier, but she's just not, unfortunately. And it's purely because she gets cut off. She gets cut off so fast. And it's a real shame, because Hiyoko has so much going for her. She's set up for a fantastic character arc. Her free time events are really good. But then, halfway through chapter 3, the game just decides, oh, no, actually, she's not developing as a character and we're gonna kill her now. It's like, what? So Akane can have a terrible version of Hiyoko's character arc? Like, what the fuck? Why? Why would you do that? Yeah, this is something else I've spoken about. Akane should have died instead of Hiyoko. I think Akane dying would have made for a more interesting character arc for Nekomaru. Just a more interesting character going into the end of the game. Yeah, Hiyoko got so far. If this was a personal ranking of just, like, how much do I like them, Hiyoko might even be in V3 tier. But as is, no. The game short straws her so badly that she has to sit down here. Ibuki! I might make some more people upset with this. There we go. I mean, Ibuki is... she's comic relief, and she's just comic relief. She's entertaining comic relief, but she's just comic relief. Again, suffers from the same problem that these other three at the bottom here do. Super likable, super nice. That's about it. But she at least has a little extra going on in her free time events, at least, to push her above these three. And that's really all I have to say. Izuru, pretty easy Super Danganronpa 2 tier. Like, is this guy a character? Because he sure is boring. But tush. Like, seriously, like, Izuru's an interesting concept. But as a character himself, Izuru's just so fucking dull. Like, there's nothing going on here, like, with Izuru. Again, you could argue this is, like, the same thing with Kyondo and Genocide Jack down here, like, he is Hajime. But, that feels dirty. Uttering Hajime's name in the same sentence as Izuru, when Izuru is so fucking bland. Ugh. Honestly, you know what? No, fuck it. He's worse than Akane. He is straight up awful. Speaking of straight up awful, Junko, you're gonna go top of SDR2 tier. If it was just Danganronpa 1, I think she might actually make Danganronpa 1 tier, honestly. Junko's not complicated, she's not meant to be. Until she was meant to be. Right, Ryoko? Junko, like Monokuma, is just a fucking old school Disney villain. Like, she's evil because she's evil, and she has a lot of fun being evil. And that's honestly enough. It genuinely is. And it could be a little disappointing in, like, a mystery, story-heavy game like Danganronpa 1. I think that's the big weakness of Junko. Is that she really doesn't fit in the game that she's the antagonist for. But, like, it's an interesting twist. She's, like, quite intimidating. Vocal performance is great. Yeah, she's really solid in Danganronpa 1. And then she comes back in Danganronpa 2 for no reason, has a shit plan, is really boring, and the rest of the series ruins her from there. Danganronpa 3, at least we get to see her being evil. She's not that interesting, but at least we get to see it, right? I think her appearance in Danganronpa 3 is miles better than a Danganronpa 2 one, but it's not exactly a Danganronpa 1 appearance, you know? I mean, that's kind of it, really, isn't it? That's all of Junko's appearances, but Danganronpa 2 does such a bad job with her that it really kills so much of the enjoyment I had of her. Like, fucking... oh, God, Danganronpa 2 has... it has peaks and valleys. you know? It has some high highs. Cough, cough, like, Gundham, Fuyuhiko. It has some low lows. All of Chapter 3. Akane. Junko coming back. Izuru. Okay, enough of that though. Let's do some hating on V3, shall we? Okay, no, I'm not. I'm kind of joking, but I think Kaede's going like top of UDG. Maybe you know what? No, bottom of Danganronpa 1 tier. If I'm gonna put Celeste here, I'm gonna put Kaede here. I think. So you're not actually no. There we go. Or nah, this is the time. This is the time Celeste is going down. Kaede again. She's the Chiaki. She's the Hina. She's the Gonta. She's super nice, and that's her character. But I think the game does a lot better of a job with this. One, she dies in chapter 1. We aren't stuck with Kaede for too long. And I think that's perfect for a character like her. She doesn't become too boring. And the fact that we actually play as her, we see a little more of like the internal conflict she has, right? I'm not a Kaede fan. I think she's just kind of there. On an overall scale, she's gonna be on like the bottom of my favorites from V3. But I think her role in the story is very well done. If she was around for a longer time, oh my god, she'd be the worst protagonist in the series. She's so flat. Haha, Miyu joke. And I think that's intentional. I think it's intentional that Kaede's pretty one-dimensional. She wants everyone to work together and get out of there as friends. And if she carried on like that, she'd be Makoto, but would be liked better because she has boobs. Like, come on. Tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm objectively right. But the fact that we only have her for one chapter, it doesn't grate. We, again, see enough of her, like, in a conflict of, like, oh, it's not working, I'm not good enough. And it's compelling, it's effective. The end of chapter 1 is super emotional because Kaede is well established. And it's sad to see her go. Like Chiaki, but Kaede isn't around for long enough for the flaws with a character like Chiaki to be so obvious. Kaito! Haha! Move over, guys! Ha! Yeah, I love Spaceman. Admittedly, I think my personal bias is probably pushing him too far up that list. But he's so enjoyable. Like, a very good comic relief, because he runs a good balance between being comic relief and being a wholly serious character. I think that's really important for a character like Kaito. Again, a comic relief character. To have that heart alongside the ha-ha, spaceman a bit dumb, ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha, I really like his conflict with Kokichi throughout the whole game. I love his relationships with Shuichi and Maki. I will say his chapter 1 stuff is a little I don't really know how I'm not really feeling chapter 1 Kaito, but I love him throughout the entire story. He's definitely not like deep or complex, but he performs his role in the story so amazingly well. Again, this is a personal thing. I think he's super likable and charismatic. I really like his role in Chapter 5. I can really like his roles in Shuichi and Maki's character arcs. I really like his conflict with Kokichi throughout the whole thing. I surprisingly really like his ideological conflict with Shuichi in Chapter 4 and 5. And I like... I know Kaito gets some flack for not being flawed, and I think that's incorrect. Like, chapters 4 and 5 are built upon the fact that he is flawed. Like, that's the main drama of those chapters. And to be fair, you get it pointed out to you throughout the entire game, right? Kaito's ideology of just, I believe because I want to, in the context of Danganronpa is reckless, irresponsible, and stupid. But at the same time, he sells it very well. Like, you can totally buy into it, because isn't that what you do in every Danganronpa game? But logically, it makes no sense to do that. Surely you should just trust the evidence. And obviously, you shouldn't do that. That's why Shuichi's, that part of Shuichi's character arc is so great, because he's the perfect middle line between Kaito and Kokichi. He combines the best parts of their ideology to, make the perfect balance to both sides, right? That's why he's the protagonist. That's a key part of his character. But yeah, I love Kaito. I do. And if you didn't before, now you do. Kazuichi is gonna go... I think... top of UDG tier, I think, for Kazuichi. A lot of that's genuinely down to the fact that in the story, he kind of fucking sucks. He does nothing. He's comic relief, which is kind of funny, kind of not. He built some stuff. He builds some communications and fixes an elevator. And kind of takes apart Mekamaru a little bit. And other than that, he's just comic relief. But, as I said with Hajime, Kazuichi's free time events are really fucking good. They're really solid. But genuinely, again, just like with most other characters in Danganronpa 2, it's the fact that he does nothing in the story that bumps him so far down. What about Kazuichi is endearing in the main story? Maybe you like how into Sonya, purely into Sonya he is, I guess. Because, yeah, obviously it's not pure, but you know what I mean, right? Maybe you feel bad for him, because, Gundham accidentally cucks him. The Speedo thing with Hajime, maybe that's funny or endearing to you, but yeah, sorry, Kazuichi. It's just that main story, man. You're almost as useless as Akane by the end. Kibo. I like Kibo, but he's genuinely not really that interesting outside of Chapter 6. I'm gonna put him there. I think Kibo is an interesting take on the only characteristic is I'm nice, because he's not. Kibo's quite whiny. He's got a persecution complex, but he's a soft boy at heart, I really like Kibo, but I don't think he's that good. You know what I mean? And genuinely, I really don't have much else to say about him than that. I think his role in Chapter 6 is quite interesting. But again, other than that, I think Kibo's the perfect middle point of the series, right? He's not good, he's not bad, but I do like him. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is everyone below Kibo is characters that if I had to choose, I would say I don't like. Everyone above Kibo are characters that I do like. Let's go with that. Kirumi. Now, because I don't want to seem too biased, I apologize, Kirumi, because you really shouldn't be here, I don't think, but I'm going to put you at top of Super Danganronpa 2 tier. Kirumi's my least favorite character in V3. You probably, again, know this if you've seen my free time events, or even just the main playthrough. I really don't like Kirumi. Beyond... It's got nothing to do with, oh, she's boring, or... Which I do kind of feel she is. But it's not really much to do with that when I say that. More so is that I think she's the most unlikable murderer in the series. I'm sorry, I guess it's just that I don't believe in the whole sacrifice the few for the many in the context of murder, especially not when it can just flat out be avoided, you know? And I don't like the fact that she took advantage of Ryoma in a state of personal weakness. You know, she really left a bad taste in my mouth when she died. But, I mean, she's fine. I don't think she's a bad character. Again, she really doesn't deserve to be down here, I don't think. But I'm gonna put her here just so I'm not too obviously biased in V3's favor. I mean, we do already have 4 characters in the top 2 tiers. Although, you know, to be fair, I have shat on Danganronpa 2 a lot, and, you know, it has 3 characters in the top 2 tiers. So, you know, I mean, it does also have 2 characters down here, and then 3, 4 even down here, but... Moving on, Taka! V3 tier, easy. I'm actually going to put him ahead of Byakuya, honestly. That's... Is that too much? Is that too much of a personal bias going in there? Oh, it might be, but fuck it. I'm going to keep him there. Look, ever since... You know, if you've seen my Danganronpa 1 playthrough, I love Taka. I love his personal journey. Even though it ends in tragedy, I love his personal journey. I think his free time events are some of the best in the series. For how simple it is, I really like his design and personality. There's nothing about Taka that I dislike. Genuinely nothing at all. And that's why he's there. But I don't think there's enough going on with Taka to put him at the top of V3 tier. Like, you could make a comparison between Kaito and Taka for me, I guess. There's not too much going on with Kaito, but there's a lot more than there is with Taka. Like, obviously, Kaito's, like, what's the word? Inferior, like how he starts to feel inferior compared to Shuichi. That's way more than Taka gets, you know? Like, he gets depressed that his only friend dies, and then he dies. You know? So you know what? I suppose that's like the one thing I don't like with Taka, is that just like everyone else in Danganronpa 1, as soon as he dies, that's it. Oops. He's lost to the grey. Which is a real shame. I feel like someone like Taka could have a really profound effect on some of the people still living. Makoto, maybe, in particular. Like, you could make a good contrast between him and Makoto in that, you know, Sayaka died, but Makoto had the inner strength to carry on. For Taka, when Mondo died, he didn't, and he sort of fell apart. And maybe you could have like a little thing with Makoto being like, I could have ended up like Taka. But no, you don't even get that much, you know? But that's just how Danganronpa 1 rolls, unfortunately. And to be fair, I think it doesn't necessarily work in its favor, but it sort of reveals to you the I guess the direction the games are going in, right? Danganronpa 1 was about the mystery, the overarching mystery. Danganronpa 2 and V3 are not. They're more so about the characters. Or, well, V3 is more so about the characters. Like, it's a character drama through and through. It's why there isn't an overarching mystery. And Danganronpa 2 tries to do both. I think, because you don't get any hints towards the main twist, and the characters are only comic relief in the main story. So I think Danganronpa 2 was trying to do both. It was just unsuccessful on both ends outside of free time events. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Kokichi. Okay. I hate Kokichi. As a person, I fucking despise him. He would be down here with Kirumi. But I think he's a fantastic antagonist. So easily the best one in the series. Honestly, the only reason he's not, like, here, maybe... like, here or here, is because I personally hate him. I do not agree with pretty much anything about him, but I think he's very interesting. I think his thematic purposing in, like, maybe not rivaling to Shuichi, but like the ideological conflicts he has with Kaito and Shuichi, I think are very interesting. The way he uses a lot of other characters, I think, is very interesting. I find his relationships with Kibo and Miyu to be quite entertaining, as much as I probably shouldn't, because it's just abuse. But you know, I honestly shouldn't go on about more about Kokichi, because it's too hard to talk about him in a short frame of time. And this video's already, I don't even know how long we've been going, and this video's already too long, I can tell you that. So we're gonna leave Kokichi there. Leave it at that. Maybe we'll have an entire video dedicated to Kokichi, because he's quite a contentious topic. But yeah, Kokichi's, I think he's really good, even though I hate him. Kyo! Oh god, I think I'm gonna upset some people doing this. Danganronpa 1! I fucking love Kyo! A massive part of that is his free time events. As someone who is personally very invested in anthropology, I found his free time events so enjoyable. So much fun to just sit and talk with him. And in the main story, look, I know the sister thing is contentious to say the least, but, I mean, other than that, I love Kyo in the main story. He's perfectly wacky, yet serious. Again, perfectly balanced. I think he's very creepy, whilst also not really being that creepy. Again, it's a good balance. Like, he's a very obvious suspect to be like, oh yeah, he's gonna murder someone. But at the same time, he's quite chill and calm. Yeah, look, I just really like Kyo. I think he's real great. Not like overly complicated, but I think he's I really like Kyo. I think he's really well done. Again, maybe I think the fact that I like him so much is probably why he's up here. I think otherwise he'd probably be at like the bottom of Danganronpa 1 tier, like with Kaede. But I'm sorry, I just really like Kyo. Hiyoko, I'm gonna put her here. I actually think Hiyoko would benefit a lot more from being in a different Danganronpa game. Because you know what I said a couple of minutes ago, right? About how Danganronpa 1 is very much more interested in the story than the characters. I feel like Hiyoko would have Hyoko's character arc of coming to trust people again would be a lot more interesting if the game was more character focused. And also, not in Danganronpa 1's favor is the free time system they used there. The fact that she only has, 4 free time events, despite the fact that she survives, is a bit... I enjoy her free time events. I think they're very cute and quite funny. And they do show us a more playful side of her personality. But... there's just not enough with Kyoko for me. Again, I really like her, but I don't think she's quite as compelling as, say, Angie or Fuyuhiko, or even Kyo for me. But I like her a little more than I like, everyone below her. And I think she does have a character arc still. I just think it would be better in a different game, because the game would spend more time with her. Because, imagine Kyoko in V3, right? Because she'd be one of the main characters, you could have so much more time. You could argue that Maki is, Kyoko in that sort of setting, to a certain extent. But, we'll talk about that when we get to it. Leon, super easy Danganronpa 2 tier. What the fuck is with who? Who is this guy? This guy has a character? A man very much done dirty by Danganronpa 1's free time system, but also the fact that he's just shallow as all hell really doesn't make me enjoy him. Honestly, the best thing about Leon is his appearance in Ultra Despair Hagakure. there's nothing to like for me about Leon. But at the same time, I don't like hate his guts like I do Akane or Izuru, I guess, for that matter. So like, well, I mean, I don't really hate Izuru. I just think he's the worst, like one of the most poorly executed characters in the franchise, along with Akane. But at the very least, Akane has some positives. What does Izuru have? Like the fact that he cries when Chiaki dies. Like that's all he's got. Hiru again. If this were my personal tier list, she would definitely be entirely subjective. She would be in V3 tier, but I can't do that, unfortunately. So I'm going to put her between Kyo and Fuyuhiko, I think. Come on. Kyo, look, I know she's just that great, Kyo. There we go. Yeah, I think that sits about right for me. I've always had my same, like, feelings for Hiru. Obviously, I love her design. I love her, like, I personally have a little bit of interest in photography. It's like an art form. I think that's really interesting. And like Kyo, that endears me to her a little bit more. But I really like Mihiru's character. For all its simplicity, it's very well executed. And while it is relegated mostly to her free times, I think because she's one of the few straight men in the cast, she actually does get a little moment to breathe every now and then. Well, in the little time she's alive. Just talking to her around, just when she's standing around, when you're going to morning meetings or whatever, between story beats. Mihiru actually has some interesting stuff to say, like, following Teru's execution, she has something to say about family that's very integral to her free time events. That's the one that always stands out to me. But yeah, I mean, Mihiru has all the perks for me of being like the likable character who's very nice, but also has more to her than that because she's stubborn and kind of mean. She's not just the nice person. She's nice to who she wants to be, but she's also, in a way, kind of a Fuyuhiko. Like, she's an asshole to Kazuichi. She really is. Kind of almost unjustly. And sure, like, you do have free time events and it explains why. That doesn't mean she's right to treat him that way. But, yeah, I really like Mihiru. Danganronpa, #1 waifu, I'm not gonna lie to you. But, she's complex in her simplicity. And I think the fact that she's so simple and doesn't really get much time is what's keeping her out of top tier for me. Because, like, what I said about her can be applied to Gundham as well, but I think he's more interesting, and by proxy not by proxy necessarily, but I also think he's a little more entertaining, which makes him a bit of a more memorable, well, maybe not, I think a more memorable character for the average player, whereas for me, they're probably, like, equal. I'm not going to forget either of these two anytime soon, but for vastly different reasons. Let's move on, though, before I talk too long again. Maki. Yeah, I'm gonna be predictable. There we go. Look, I love Maki. I really do. And I will 100% concede that she is not the most original character in the world. I know. Crazy, isn't it? That her character arc has been done before. Again, arguably even in this series with Kyoko, to a lesser extent. Well, not to a lesser extent. It's not entirely one-to-one, obviously, but they have like a similar demeanor, and it sort of lends to a similar sort of character arcs, except, Maki actually has friends, whereas Kyoko only has Makoto. Yeah, Maki's, for like a character who's not the most original in the world, she's so well executed that I can't justify putting her any lower, honestly. I genuinely can't. Like, I think Himiko's a little bit better because she plays more into the themes of the game, and she's a little more nuanced and interesting of a character, or unique of a character, I should say, compared to Maki. But like these two are so good. Like again, if you've seen me play V3, you know Shuichi's you already know Shuichi's up here as well. V3 had not only the best survivors in the series, but its choice of survivors were spot on. Like they really were. Again, yeah, I'm not going to talk too long. Maki's Maki. I love her. I really do, and I think she's super well done, if not the most unique character in the world. Makoto. Ooh. Yeah, I think you're going to the bottom of UDG tier. Maybe even. Can I really? Okay, you know what? Kirumi, you're going up there. If Makoto's up here and I can't justify putting him down here, and I know you don't belong in there, I'm gonna move you up. Makoto's like milquetoast, the character. There's nothing going on with him. He's he's the normal guy. And look, I have friends who really like Makoto. I don't get it. I'm not gonna lie. He's just there, and that's all I have to say. Mikan. You know what? I'm going to surprise myself a little bit here. She's going to go in bottom of Danganronpa 1 tier, I think. She's not my favorite character in the world, and honestly, she's a part of like a character archetype I have since playing Danganronpa 2, or even when I was playing Danganronpa 2, I have since become very jaded to, and I'm not really that a big a fan of her sort of character archetype anymore. You know, of the stuttering, self-conscious sort of character. I say, despite my Fire Emblem Three Houses opinions, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's not really doing it for me anymore. But I do still really like Mikan. I think she's very, very interesting, sort of because she's a bad person, right? Like, again, I've been over this when I was doing the free time event episodes in Danganronpa 2. Mikan is pretty much an abuser at the point she's at. And how she's gotten there is so unbelievably tragic. Like, but interesting to see. And it's interesting to see it spill over into the main story as well. Because you sort of see that, right? In the main story. Like, Mikan doesn't just bust out that she's a bit of a fucking creepy weirdo in her free time events. You get glimpses of it in the main story. I do think that, you know, people interpret like ultimate despair Mikan as like the real Mikan. That's not true. That's not what she's really like. But I mean, she is still like kind of manipulative, kind of a bitch. Not in like the same way Hiyoko is, but in a, you know, in like, I like seeing people in hospital because they are forced to rely on me sort of way. That's not a thing you want to be wishing on someone. You know, it's like in a Pokemon Center and Nurse Joy says, I hope to see you again. It's like, okay, that's a bit creepy that you said that. Obviously, I think somewhat is true for Mikan as well. I don't think it's entirely intentional. But it does sort of come off that way, at least to me. Then there's also, of course, her whole any attention is good attention thing that she has going that sort of throws up into the air. Like, is the way she behaves deliberate? Which extends, and I haven't really talked about it, into her swimsuit in Danganronpa S, right? That it's like clearly purposely revealing, probably because she wants the attention. To a certain extent. Now again, you know, then you re-roll into like some controversy there, right? It's like, if Mikan really is an abuse victim, is it okay to portray her in certain ways? And I actually now usually, and by usually I mean in like the one other time this is really a problem in like a fandom that I've been in, is with On in P5. And I think you can make a much better case for Mikan of it being, like, morally reprehensible that Mikan's put in a lot of revealing positions. At the same time, I mean, it's not as if, as far as my memory serves, I don't think it's ever been confirmed that Mikan has been sexually harassed or, like, abused. Physically, yes. Whereas, like, with Arn, sexually abused, yes, 100% she has been. Yeah, like, with Mikan, I'm not so sure it's confirmed that she's sexually abused, but at the same time, it still feels a little... or it would feel... Well, it does still feel... but it feels a little less when you sort of put into the picture that she does it on purpose to get attention. I don't know, it's something that I find interesting, and I think that makes her more, surprisingly, of an interesting character than a lot of the people down here, you know? Sure, like, Celeste and Hiyoko I like more than Mikan, but I think Mikan's got a little more stuff going on than characters like that. So yeah, we'll leave that there. Now, a character that's not got much going on, but that I think is a fucking hoot, Miyu! Let's put her there. I fucking love Miyu. You know I do. I'm a filthy fucking loudmouth, sewer mouth piece of shit myself. So of course I like Miyu. But the fact that Miyu is, I don't know, multifaceted in a weird way also makes me like her more. The fact that she's so pathetic, like, so pathetically lonely and yet so rude and mean is something that I find weirdly interesting. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I enjoy the verbal abuse. Like, you know, when it's not, you know, Mikan sort of abuse and Miyu's sort of abuse instead. You know, I can get behind it a lot more. Look, I just really like Miyu, right? I think she's very entertaining. I think she's a great comic relief. Annoying? Yeah. And I think that's the point. The characters in the game find her annoying. We're supposed to find her annoying too. And I think as, like, a character designed to be the most unlikable in the series, I think they did a very good job. I think they did a great job with it, but also making her somewhat sympathetic. Like, she clearly has no social skills. Apparently she has brain damage, which sort of comes through in the fact that she has no social skills. Not to, you know, not to, like, say because she's got potentially a mental illness. Everyone with mental illness is brain damaged, but you know what I mean. Well, maybe you don't know what I mean, and that's why I had to clarify there, because, you know, not that it's a common rhetoric, but I feel like some people would, you know, some people aren't quite educated enough to know the difference between brain damage and, like, mental health problems. But whatever. That's besides the point, right? We don't need to talk about that. And that's delving into Angie territory. Yeah, you know, we'll leave Miyu. I really like her. I don't think, like, she's not really that complicated, but I think she's multifaceted enough to justify putting her up here beyond me just really liking her. Mondo is gonna get UDG tier, I think. Ooh, where though? I think he's below Kazuichi. But I think he's more interesting than Celeste. You know what? Weird set of free time events, because they really have nothing to do with, like, his character growth. But it's Mondo has, like, a set of free time events that I really enjoy, because it lets you see a side to him that you would never see in the main game. And not because it's like he's trying to hide it. It's just, it would just never be relevant. You know? There's definitely some other characters who are like that. I mean, to a certain extent, Kyo, right? Because, like, you're not going to stop in the middle of the game to talk about anthropology with Kyo. Gundham, you're not going to stop to talk about his loneliness. Granted, yes, you do a little bit in Chapter 2, right? When he, like, is sad that you were hanging out without him. But, you know, Mondo's sort of got that sort of thing going on. But, again, he's not, like, complicated. And, like, I dying in Chapter 2, I do think hurts him a little bit. Because you know, he's enjoyable, but he's not really that complicated. I mean, complex, I should say, I suppose, instead of complicated. Because I'm throwing that word around a lot without really defining it, but I don't know. I just can't really put him on the same level as these guys. I just don't think he's as good of a character. Mukuro. Ooh. Actually, yeah, where am I going to put Mukuro? I think I'm going to put her between Kibo and Ibuki. I think that's where she deserves. Yeah, I mean, Mukuro suffers massively because she's, like, never there, right? But, I don't know. I like her enough. Like, the most time she gets is in a non-canon light novel, right? So, like, it's kind of hard to rank Mukuro, but, I mean, I like her enough. And really, I suppose that's all I can say about Mukuro, but, I like her, so she's got to be on this side of Kibo, because of what I said earlier. Nagito. Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna put you at the bottom of DR1 tier. I'm sorry. I think Nagito's fine, but God, he's the worst antagonist. Like, so easily. Well, when I say antagonist, I mean like the quote-unquote rivals, right? Like, I'll tell you why, because it's the same thing I've been saying since I've finished Danganronpa 2. He doesn't do anything for the entire game! Like, just like Terodoro and Peko, the only thing he really does in the first chapter is be a plot twist. It's like, oh, that's a really good one! What's he gonna do? Well, in chapter 2, he's tied up, and in chapter 3, he's in bed, and in chapter 4, he's a petty little bitch, and in chapter 5, he blows everything up. Yeah. Nagito is only good in chapters 1 and 5. I'm sorry, he is. The other chapters, 2 and 3, why is he even there? And in chapter 4, I mean, at least he has something going on, but it's not exactly interesting. Because, yeah, a part of that is, of course, because you have to wait for the reveal. But, like, in chapter 4, it's only in the back, like, third of the chapter. And he's being an evasive, whiny bitch. Like, I don't think there's anything to enjoy about Nagito in those 3 chapters. The threat of him doing stuff, I think, has stayed with people a lot more than he actually does stuff. That's something that I really like about Kokichi. He's pretty much constantly doing shit. In chapter 1, sure, it's not that drastic. It's no Nagito introduction. But right out of the gate, he's pretty open about the fact that he's gonna lie to get in your way, whether it matters or not. In chapter 2, same thing with the lies. The ideological conflict with Kaito begins, and he initiates the insect meet and greet, which is a big part of that chapter. Chapter 3 takes a bit of a back seat, but the lying shit continues. He's integral to the start of Himiko's character. Well, the start of Himiko's shift in character, because he's the final nail in the coffin to the whole escapism theme. Chapter 4 is the reason why I hate him, but he's clearly involved. Chapter 5, he's clearly involved. Nagito doesn't have that luxury, and that's why he's there. But otherwise, I mean, he's fine. I like him enough. Nekomaru. I am going to put him in Danganronpa 1 tier, I think. Ooh. Where, though? I think he sits around, like, the middle. Ooh. I'm gonna put him there. I'm gonna put Nekomaru there. So I really like Nekomaru. You probably already know that. Again, if you've watched my Let's Plays and free time episodes. I really like Nekomaru. I think he's got a really interesting... Beyond Chapter 1, he's got quite an interesting character setup. I think the Mechamaru stuff is really, like... That really made me appreciate him, you know? Because, like, in spite of the fact that he's completely been like, sacrificing himself for someone else, it sort of backfired in almost every possible way. Because not only did he not die, like, saving someone, because Akane then, you know, cries, whines, and doesn't recognize him when he comes back. But, you know, he's got an entire fucking robot body, and he's unfazed. Like, he still gets on with life. He realizes that he's different from everyone else, but he still marches on with that big smile on his face, and I fucking love that about the guy. I think his free time events are quite interesting too, and really reveal, like, that inspirational sort of guy that I think Akane was supposed to see in him. Yeah, I love Nekomaru. Simple, yeah, very effective. Similarly to Mihiro, I think. Just not as. In fact, I always want to say his longevity hurts him, because I mean, it helps him, but I think he had to have, like, the shit, pun entirely intended, start to Chapter 1, because, like, there was nothing for him to do there, aside from shit, and, you know... I mean, going forward beyond that, there's nothing I really dislike about Nekomaru. I think he's a pretty well-done character. I, again, think it would have been very interesting for like, a guy like him to see if his sacrifice truly did mean nothing, and Akane died anyway. Granted, not by Monokuma's hands, but she died anyway, and he still had to survive now completely altered. I think that would have been way more interesting as a character arc for him in Chapter 4, to see him, like, maybe try and struggle with that, but what we have is really solid. Really solid. And that's why he's, like, in the top half of Danganronpa 1 tier. Peko! Top of Super Danganronpa 2 tier. That is genuinely all I have to say about Peko. Like, I don't hate her, but she's totally bottom tier. Like, what is her character? She likes Fuyuhiko? Like, you know? Like, she's part of a good twist. A really bad trial, but a really good twist. But, I mean, her entire character is just a platform for Fuyuhiko. Like, I don't know. She likes cute things. I guess it's unexpected, because she's super stoic. Yeah. Moving on. Yeah, sorry, I genuinely don't have anything else to say about her. Rantaro. Rantaro is our first... yeah, he's our first victim. And he suffers in the same way all of them do, I think. He doesn't get as much time as he really deserves. But what we do have, granted, it's got nothing to do with his character, and that's kind of why he's sitting down here, but I think he's a very good plot twist. Like, plot twist. Ultimate Imposter is fucking terrible for this. Like, oh my god, pretty good character, right? Like, the Ultimate Imposter is a very, like, endearing and kind of heartbreaking character. But in Danganronpa 2, literally all he is a plot twist, and a shit plot twist at that. Rantaro is kind of similar, in that a big part of him in the main story is that he's just a plot twist, and then, like, his character is reserved for his free times, which are pretty good, again, just like Ultimate Imposter. But because he's not based on some other character, like Byakuya maybe, he at least has a little bit of room to breathe in Chapter 1. He's, like, kind of mysterious and kind of personable, but he's also a little bit distant, and it seems like he knows more than he's letting on. You know, Rantaro's interesting. But, again, it's more from, like, the mystery plot perspective, and V3 isn't really about that, so it does sort of dampen Rantaro a little bit, I will say. But I like Rantaro enough. I enjoy his free time events. Well, with Shuichi, his ones with Kaede are like pointless, but yeah, I think they're pretty damn good. Moving on, because I don't have much else to say. Ryoma. Ooh. Can have a bit of an upset personally, but well, not really. I feel like this has to be. Move over, Kaito. Ryoma's coming in. What a good character. Really makes the most of the time he has. And even then, he's got even more in his free time events. Ryoma is so densely packed with good shit that I genuinely don't know what to say about him. Like he's just so well done. Like I love him. I love everything about him. He's really good. Yeah, no, I'm genuinely gonna move on. That's all I have to say about him. Sakura. Ooh, I'm feeling Danganronpa 1 tier. But I think it's gonna be bottom of Danganronpa 1 tier. I know Sakura holds like a good spot in a lot of people's hearts, right? But I'm gonna have to go with a bit of a common criticism of Sakura here, in that she doesn't really do anything until chapter 4, does she? Her role in chapter 4 is really good. But like story-wise, like she kind of just is there until that point. She doesn't do anything. Her free time events are quite nice. I appreciate that, but story-wise, Sakura does nothing. I enjoy her design. Again, I enjoy her free time events. I enjoy her time in chapter 4, but yeah, outside of that, yeah, there's not really anything going on with Sakura, which is a real shame because she's got a lot to give, but yeah. Sayaka. Oh man. Really? You know what? Actually, she's not that hurt by dying in chapter 1. She's hurt the most by the god-awful free time events in Danganronpa 1, or at least the free time event system. The fact that she only has 2 free time events really fucks her up, but I think she's really well established in chapter 1. She's got a compelling, like, story going on there. She's very well defined. Honestly, Sayaka feels right in line with a V3 character. You spend so much time with her, getting to know her, all about her backstory, her life, her beliefs. Well, a little less so her beliefs, but her beliefs around, like, her work, I should say. And, like, her relationship with her friends. Sayaka's, kind of just like Sakura, got so much to give, and she gives it in the main story in chapter 1, and that's it. And that's the thing with Sayaka that's just, oh, she could be, if she were given full free time events in the vein of Danganronpa 2 and V3, I genuinely think Sayaka could be a V3 tier character. But as is, she sits here like UDG, top of UDG, bottom of DR1. Like, she's hurt so much, but she's really good in chapter 1 of Danganronpa 1. She's super interesting, super compelling. And speaking of super interesting and super compelling, Shuichi is so easily the best character to come from V3. Like, holy shit. What a character. If you think Kaede would have been a better protagonist, I don't know what to tell you other than that you're wrong. Objectively, that's not just my favoritism speaking. Like, there is no way in hell Kaede could ever hope to be as good or interesting of a character as Shuichi. There is nothing I don't like about Shuichi. Like, genuinely. There is not a single, I don't think there's a single thing wrong with him. He is, I think, the closest thing this series has to a perfect character. Yeah. I genuinely think that's where I'm gonna have to leave my placement of Shuichi there. He is just that good. Okay. Oh, Sonia. Ah, you're going bottom of DR1, my girl. You know I love her. I've already been over the fact that I love her. But there's not. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to do that. There's nothing going on with Sonia, like at all. There's nothing deep or complex in the slightest. But I think she's very funny, and I like her a lot. And that's why she's here. I think if this were a fully objective tier list, she would be in Danganronpa 2 tier. Maybe even Danganronpa 3 tier. But like, she's a comic relief character that I think is very funny. And that's enough for me in her case. Genuinely. Yeah. That is that. I'll leave that there. Tenko! I'm gonna break some hearts doing this. Yeah. There we go. I love Tenko. I really like her. Again, comic relief. I love her. Great funny faces. Her obsessiveness is, I think, hilarious. The fact that she's a total hypocrite about being a degenerate, I think is hilarious. But there's also a lot of heart to Tenko. In chapters 2 and 3, I think some of the best moments belong to her. When she has her little speech about, like, wanting to believe in Himiko during the second trial. Brilliant. Her, like, final moments with Himiko in chapter 3. Brilliant. The fact that she's a very good version of Peko. She is a platform for Himiko's development, but she's a character in her own right, which I just don't think Peko is, or I don't feel Peko is. Yeah, look, I love Tenko. I love all that she does for the story, and Himiko. And she's cute, okay? I think she's cute. There you go. There's another reason I like her so much. Are you happy now? Can I move on? Because I know these two, being where they are someone's gonna want me shot. So, you know, let me just put it all out there. I like these characters for a lot of different reasons. And speaking of characters I like, Terutoru is not one of them. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, we'll put him there. What? Terutoru just so exists. Like, he's a Leon. I have nothing to say about him. He's just so there. And that's it. Now, Toko. You know what I was saying? Shuichi's like the perfect character. Yeah, Toko's my favorite. I genuinely don't know how this has still happened, and I think depending on the day you ask me, these two could totally switch around. But Toko was, and I think always will be, my favorite character in Danganronpa. And she wouldn't be if it weren't for Ultra Despair Girls. If we were just going by her appearance in Danganronpa 1, I think she'd be, like, here, maybe just above Kaito. But thanks to Ultra Despair Girls, she marches on ahead, like, mwah. I already loved her, and I appreciate I'm like the only one who thinks this, but I loved her in Danganronpa 1. I thought she was hilarious, and her free time events were beautifully tragic and really made me sympathize with her. Or empathize. Well, I mean, a bit of both, but empathize with her mainly. I could go on forever talking about Toko, and I don't want to, because I feel like this video is going to be like 2 hours long. But, you know, I wanted to make this slightly exhaustive. And to be fair, we are coming to an end. I don't really have much to say about the anime cast. Or the bears. So, you know, we've only got, like, a line left. So, yeah, I really like Toko. I think she's great. Genocide Jack, I know I said I'd sort of treat these as a package deal. And I think I stand by that. But purely for the sake of not having Toko in both of the two spots, like, here, I'll rank Jack somewhat independently, right? Actually, something that I find, even when I was playing the game, I found really interesting. A lot of, like, the best Toko, quote-unquote, moments in Ultra Despair Girls were actually courtesy of Jack. You know, the iconic one, I suppose, is the Chapter 4 one, with, you know, the Nagito and Kamaru scene. Like, that the best parts of that come from Jack. I think she's earned her spot up here, I genuinely do. But probably at the bottom of this tier list. Not of the tier list. Oh dear. Worse than Izuru? I didn't know it was possible. Oh, that it's definitely possible. Samugi. Samugi. I'm gonna put her at the top of UDG tier. I've flip-flopped with Samugi, I'm not gonna lie. I have changed my level of appreciation for her a lot. Like, obviously, when I was just playing through V3 for the first time, for me, she was the Akane of that game. Awful, I hated everything about her, I wanted her to die. And then that plot twist came in at the very end, and I was like, ugh! You know, just like everyone else was when my jaw hit the floor. And since then, I've sort of been on a bit of a spectrum with Samugi. Because, like, she's an interesting idea. She represents, I think more importantly, a very interesting idea for the Mastermind. You know, being, like, the fans and Danganronpa team. Like, how they're... everyone is the mastermind in Danganronpa, because people make these games and make the series, and we enjoy the series, and we watch the series. You know, in a real-world context, we're the ones who perpetuate all the suffering these teenagers go through. Even if it's, you know, we don't wish harm on a lot of them, but, you know, at the same time, we're the ones who perpetuate it. But Samugi herself is still kind of boring, which is, like, the point, right? So, yeah, great, must be a good character, right? Right? Maybe not, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard for me to talk about Samugi. I can't lie to you. But, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. At the very least, she's much better than Junko. Now, Ultimate Imposter. What an interest... I'm going to pop you there for now, mate, but what an interesting dilemma. Because if we're just going off the story, he's there. He might even be in here, in Danganronpa 3 tier. But, like, with his free time events? Oh, he's a little more interesting. There's a little more depth to him. He's probably, like, there. And then you get the anime, and he's like, whoa, okay, he's probably, like, there. So, you know, you put it all together, and Ultimate Imposter's pretty good. Held back by the fact that he's god-awful in Danganronpa 2, but, I mean, in Danganronpa 3, he's pretty solid. There's a good emotional core there. And he's got a very interesting dilemma as, like, this guy with no face and no identity to call his own. But at the same time, I think that's more of an interesting concept than, you know, something that's executed in an interesting way. You know what I mean? Like, they don't do too much with it, which is a shame, but at the same time, it is his ultimate talent. I'm sure he's not that hung up about it. He's hung up about it, sure, but, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna put him there. I think I could certainly make a case for bumping him, like, up to top of this tier, maybe even bottom of DR1, but I feel comfortable putting him here in UDG tier for now. Oh, Hero. Oh, got Hero. I'm going to put you here. That's where I'm going to put Hero. I honestly don't know what to say about Hero. I mean, he's funny. And, like, he's interestingly a terrible person. But other than that, I don't really have much to say about him. I really like Ultra Despair, Hagakure. I think it's a very fun read. Yeah, other than that, for the last character in the main games, yeah, he's really underwhelming. I don't have much to say about him, honestly. Yeah. Oops, I guess. I don't know. I'm gonna have to end you there. Kumaru. I said this before. She's gonna be above Hajime, but how far above Hajime? I honestly think she's gonna go there. She's gonna go there. A character who constantly develops. She, thankfully, is like one of two characters who are always in the game. Is not forgotten like Fuyuhiko. I think that's really what gives her the edge here. She's not like the most interesting person in the world, but that's, kind of the point of being normal. I definitely think a bit of this is colored for me because I played Ultra Despair Girls like second before Danganronpa 2, so I didn't really, the nuance of having I'm not gonna pick a side sort of thing wasn't really, I hadn't seen Danganronpa do it before, and I respect it a lot more in Ultra Despair Girls than I do Danganronpa 2. Granted, also because Danganronpa 2's ending is fucking terrible, but, it's got like two good plot twists, and then it's just from Junko. Yeah. But yeah, no, Komaru's got a very compelling character arc. She's adorable as well. Told quite well visually as well, which is not something that Danganronpa characters can really get away with because it's a visual novel. So yeah, I think Komaru takes great advantage of what Ultra Despair Girls can do for her. And I think Ultra Despair Girls does have a really, for all its issues, has a really interesting plot that like Komaru holds a lot of on her shoulders, alongside Toko, of course. But I mean, now that we've actually got into the Ultra Despair Girls characters, we can really talk about that. Hiyoko, yeah, no, you're gonna go down there, lass. I mean, fun and enjoyable, but like, she's not better than Kirumi, Granted, I like her, so she's not in this tier, but, yeah. Take it or leave it, I suppose, with Hiroko. The game wouldn't really change if she wasn't in it, but I like her enough, I guess. Oh god. So, Haiji. Now, before I place him, yes, he's a terrible person. He's a god-awful human being. That's why he's a pretty good antagonist. Yeah, I'm gonna put him there. I think Haiji is a really, really good antagonist. Like, really good. I think, like, for the story that Ultra Despair Girls wants to tell, with like its you can't pick sides thing, like the Komaru goes with, I think Haiji is a great representative for the quote unquote good side, right? Because like if Haiji was just a good guy, then Komaru not siding with him and the other adults would be a fucking stupid decision. But because he and the adults are just as corrupt as the kids, then it gives Komaru's choice a lot more weight. Obviously, a certain someone nails the vocal performance for him too. A lot of like the visual, like the expressions he has are powerful. His slip into utter insanity is also powerful. Like, oh, there's. I hate Haiji as a person. You should too. But damn, he is a good antagonist. Now, speaking of antagonists, Warriors of Hope. Kotoko, I'm gonna put you in the bottom of Danganronpa 1. Now, you know what we're talking about with Mikan? Like, the sexual abuse thing? Yeah, I think it's with Kotoko that it's a little much. I get it. But at the same time, I feel like it's almost too distasteful. You know? And it's not that she's, you know, when she abuses Komaru, right? I think that's like the good extreme that you go to. But the fact that, you know, you felt okay with having her show her underwear off just for the fun of it, you know, because it's funny. I think that's distasteful. It's not like, oh my god, you've gone too far! But it's like, come on. You know, like, come on. Unlike Mikan, it's not that she does it on purpose to get attention. It just kind of happens. Which is a bit of a problem with Ultra Despair Girls that I have in general. Like, fucking hell, the amount of upskirts you get of Komaru is ridiculous. Like, why? Why? But, you know, anime be anime. Yeah, it's not cool. I don't enjoy it. Yeah, no, I think Kotoko's otherwise, like, pretty good. I mean, to the extent that I know myself and a lot of others root for her to not die at the end of, quote unquote, die at the end of chapter 3, which really we shouldn't. We just watched her abuse Komaru, and it was turned into an uncomfortable game, which is, you know, the point, obviously. Like, okay, maybe I should talk about this. That bit in Ultra Despair Girls, I don't think is like well, it is extreme, but it's extreme on purpose, right? Like, I don't think it's anime just being pervy. No, I think it is purposely uncomfortable to play through because it's supposed to be. It's a chapter about sexual harassment and assault, like, and rape. Really, like, it's not supposed to be comfortable. Again, does that mean it's, like, perfectly depicted? No, I don't think so. I think maybe it is a little too heavily, heavy, ham-fisted. But still, I'm not, like... I don't think it's the biggest sin in the world, you know? I think it could have been done a bit better, but for what it was, I think it gets the message across, like, just as well as it needed to. Okay, Jotaro. Now here's a problem, right? Because he's probably the worst, like, weakest, I should say, of the Warriors of Hope. But I find him funny, so I'm gonna put him here. Yeah, that's my entire reasoning. Like, there's not much going on with Jotaro, like, at all, but I find him funny, so he's sitting there. Genuinely, that's it. Masaru, I mean, he's sitting right there too. Like, Masaru is, like, on technicality, I guess, slightly more complex. He at least has various sides to his character, whereas Jotaro kind of doesn't. But I think he's just kind of bland. Otherwise, I mean, it's a shame that the Warriors of Hope are defined by the abuse of their pasts. But I mean, when it's still a plot twist with Masaru, you know, it is a little. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic twist and it's really shocking, but with him, like, as a character, Yeah. He serves his purpose in the plot very well, though, so... Yeah, I guess for that reason, I should put him above Jataro. He serves his purpose in the plot very well. Monica. Oh, Monica. Oh, Monica, 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 Monica. Ah, hands down my favorite antagonist in the series. I know, like, the whole Danganronpa 3 did a dirty sort of sentiment, but I'm gonna be real with you. I wasn't really that upset with it. She's a fucking child. I'm not surprised she's wishy-washy with her belief system, you know? Um, yeah, I really like Monica as a villain. Again, terrible person, just like Haiji. But just watching her enjoy being evil in a very similar way to Monokuma, right? Somehow even more despicable, I think, but Monica just enjoys being evil so much and just performs so much despicable shit that I cannot help but love her for it. And that's pretty fucking twisted of me to say, I realize, but she's it's unfair how good of a villain she is. Let's say that and leave it there. You know, we're winding down here. You know, you're not watching this anymore. You're fast forwarding to see where I've put everyone at the end. Nagisa, I think he fits right alongside Kodako. Pretty much for the same reasons as her, right? Like, he serves his purpose in the plot very well, just like Masaru and her. He's quite sympathetic without being, like, you know, too sympathetic, because he is also a mass murderer, just like all the other Warriors of Hope. Yeah, I mean, he does his job well. I enjoy him as a character. Yeah, no, I genuinely don't have much more to say about him than that. I just think he's good. He's well done. Okay, these two. Yeah, they aren't characters. I'm sorry. Yuta and Taichi are just so pointless. Like, I could maybe see if one of them was in the game and they at least lasted for like a chapter, then yippee skippy. I could probably put them in like UDG tier. They'd be here with Hiroko. These two have nothing. They are such a waste of time in the story that it's like, why are they there? Fan service? Okay. Why? So, yeah. Not a fan of those two. They're not characters. Anyway, I don't know why I've split these guys up. Let's move these guys around a bit. So Monokuma, I mean, come on. It's fucking Monokuma. How can I not? Monokuma is everything that's good about Monica, but Monokuma, you know? I mean, he loses points because he's Junko, and Junko sucks, but, you know, I mean, Monokuma's just, he's so enjoyable. He's, Disney villain. Evil for no reason other than that he's evil, but he loves being evil, and that makes him enjoyable. I know V3 Monokuma is widely considered, like, shit, at least comparatively, and, like, I kind of disagree. Like, I know he's got to share his screen time with these 5 fuckers, but, you know, I think he's fine. Honestly, these 5, for me, are no worse of a distraction to things than Usami, who's just... she's going there. Like, what the fuck? Why? Why is she here? She's just kind of obnoxious. I mean, I guess you needed her for that armament with Chiaki? Because Chiaki's not gonna fight back, so someone had to, right? I mean, it couldn't have been like Sonya or something. It was like, no, I don't believe it. Ah! You know? Couldn't have done that. But she wastes time in the same way that these 5 waste time, you know? Like, it's all it's all they do, really. But at the very least, I appreciate that the Monokubs, at least from my interpretation of things, are emblematic of that whole seasonal rot sort of thing. You know how it is, like the trope of, your cartoon goes on for so long that you have to throw in some new characters, and it's that the quirky pet sidekick. Fairly Odd Parents is pretty famous for that. And I think these five quite perfectly sum that up. Like, whoa, Monokuma's 5 kids? Like, it's a really subtle hint towards, like, the serialization of Danganronpa being part of, like, the twist. I think that's really clever. But it doesn't make up for the fact that they're kind of they don't really add much else. Cause like what? Monodam? I can put him in like there. Like he makes for an interesting villain in chapter 3, but he shares the limelight with Angie, who's just so much better than him. And it's like, Monokid, I mean, at least he's funny, so he's like there. Monophony, I mean, she's there. She's like Usami, but evil. So yeah. Monosuke, I mean, again, like, same thing. And Monotaro, I'm gonna put up here because I loved voicing him. And that's it. Like, fucking... It's sort of same thing with Kurakuma, right? Like, he's funny, I'm putting him there. No, I'm not. I'm putting him down. I'll swap places with these two. You know what? I'll be fair. I can't say that, like, Monotaro is better than Chiaki or something, or, like, any of these guys. But like, he's funny enough that, like, I don't hate him. I don't hate any of these guys, really. I know they're just a bit of a waste of time, but, like, I'm not gonna utter them in the same breath as, like, Junko or some shit. Shirokuma, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Shirokuma's never really done that much for me. They're okay, I guess, is like my final thought there. Okay, and now we'll wrap this up quite quickly, guys. I'm so sorry. I still have no idea how long this video is, but I'm so sorry that it is this long. Chisa. I like Chisa. I think she's pretty good. I'm gonna put one of Danganronpa 1 too. I think I'm gonna recommend that if you want slightly more complex opinions of mine about the anime cast, that you watch my video on my opinions on the Danganronpa 3 anime. Yeah, so otherwise I'm gonna speed through this, because, like, I like Chisa. She's not, like, super complex, but I guess she's, like, she fits in with, like, the likable gang, but she's got a little more going on, I feel, if not only because of her, like, dynamic with Juzo and Munakata. I think, for me at least, it's enough to bump her up to Danganronpa 1 tier. Bandai! Not a character, he's the only one going in Danganronpa 3 tier. What the fuck? Like, seriously? Like, why? Why does this guy exist? Great Gozu. I mean, I don't want to make this tier too big, but genuinely, like, nice guy! That's his character. Then he's dead. Jin, no, I think he's is he in Kirigiri? The Kirigiri novels a little bit? Because he might be. And if he is, well, I can't fully rate him. But, as is, yeah. I mean, what is his character? He is Jin. He is the headmaster. That is all. Juzo. Again, if you've watched the Danganronpa 3 video I did, you'll know I really like Juzo. I think he's a very, very good, like, antagonist for the show. Enough so that I actually think I'm gonna put him up here. Maybe, yeah, actually, even. I think is he Juzo may well be my favorite character from the anime. I genuinely think he stands toe to toe with a lot of these guys up here. And incredibly, he's not comic relief. Wild. Tengen. Yeah, he's there. Kizakura. Oh, Kizakura. I think that's another bottom of Danganronpa 1 tier for me. Like, he's one of those characters, like, okay, obviously everyone in not in V3, in Danganronpa 3 suffers from the fact that they can't have too much time spent on them. You know, they don't have, like, free time events, the series is quite short, all things considered. So, you know, they don't get the time in the spotlight that maybe they need, but even in the time that he has, Kizakura is pretty good. He runs that gambit of being, like, kind of suspicious, but then he's, like, very sympathetic. He's got an interesting, like, relationship to a pre-existing member of the cast in Kyoko and Jin. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put him above Chisa, actually. I like it. I like him a lot. Not as much as Juzo or, like, you know, the rest of these guys in this tier, but I think Kizakura's pretty good. Munakata, I think he's gonna pop in, like, there. Not a bad character, but I think he's the weakest in terms of, like, the new main characters from, or for Danganronpa 3. I mean, as interesting as an ideological split with Makoto can be, I think he achieves that. I do like me some Munakata in the show. I think his stance is interesting, his way of thinking is interesting, but he doesn't end up anywhere really. Like, he goes through a lot of shit, but I don't know. He doesn't really end up in a spot where I can be like, oh yeah, that he's really good. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. Natsumi, I mean, well, I mean, again, a bit of a non-character, but I do actually enjoy her, so I'm gonna actually put her there. Because, like, for the pitiful amount of time we get to spend with her, like, she's a full character. She's not, like, complex, but she's a full character, and I enjoy what she has to offer. Yeah. Ruruka! Oh god. So, you know what I was talking about, like, getting stepped on or some shit with Miyu? And, like, liking evil people? I really like Ruruka. This is something else that I went over in my Danganronpa 3 video. I like Ruruka quite a lot. Yeah, I don't think her story arc with Seiko is executed that well. I think it could be executed a lot better. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I like what's already there. As controversial a take as that may be. Mitarai, I think he's gonna sit in, like, the same sort of area as Natsumi. I like him, but he's a bit too quiet, I think. It just means we don't get too much time with him, despite the fact that he's around for the whole series, like, on both sides. So, like, I mean, I empathize with him, and, like, to kind of have him be that final episode antagonist, I think is quite interesting too. But he just does, he suffers in the same way everyone else in Danganronpa 3 suffers, right? Or almost everyone, considering that, you know, we've got 3 characters pretty high up, and I like Ruruka and Munakata as well, but yeah, he's a bit Sato, similar to Natsumi, so I'll put her there. Like, she's certainly a defined character, but you know, we don't get enough time with her. But for what we do get with her, I think she's got enough of a character to, like, qualify not being in Super Danganronpa 2 tier. Seiko. I'm gonna put her under Munakata. Again. Like I was saying with Ruruka, I enjoy the story arc they have going on. Unfortunately, Seigo dies quite early in Danganronpa 3, which I kind of always forget about. I feel like she stays around for a lot longer, which I think does speak to the quality of her character comparatively to a lot of others in Danganronpa 3, but it's still not the greatest. Iseoi, he's gonna have to go down here. I mean, his whole thing is being silent and stoic, which is very bad in Danganronpa 3, because it just means he gets nothing. And then we have Canon, who, you know what? I'm gonna stick her right there with Hiro. No, there we go. I for as weird as she is in Ultra Despair Hagakure, I actually do kind of like Canon quite a lot. Well, not a lot, but I like her. I enjoyed her story with Hiro. I enjoy like her perspective of like events in Danganronpa 1 and 2. Well, 1, but yeah. There's not too much more to say. I like her. And that's it. I'm not gonna lie, we did fall apart a little bit at the end there, because it was just, I gotta get these guys out and smack them in, and you know what? If you asked me on a different day, I'm sure this tier list would probably be a little bit different. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, my opinions on this series change almost on the daily. Though it may have been years since I finished Danganronpa. It's a franchise I think about a lot, you know? Cheesy though it may sound, I'm gonna say that, like, this series is something I think about almost every day. You know, it's left its mark on me, and I think it will stay with me forever to a certain extent. Like, I love this series. Even you fuckers down here who aren't really organized, you're just kind of there. You know what? Just looking at the bottom of this tier, I'm gonna move Peko up. I'm gonna put her there. I don't feel comfortable with Peko being below all of these guys. You know. But yeah, that's the tier list. A very messy, very long tier list. If I wasn't speaking through the whole thing, I'd edit it down, honestly. If I ever do a tier list in the future, not only will it be not nearly 100 characters long, I'll try and more rapid fire it. But I mean, this was really my chance to like spew my guts for potentially the last time on these characters. That's why I'm not too ashamed of this video being as long as it probably will be. So yeah. This is everyone. I mean, please tell me some of your favorite and least favorite Danganronpa characters. Even I do so love to hear opinions on this series, and I'm not just saying that for like YouTube algorithm reasons. I really do like hearing other people's opinions on this series. I really do. Like, not even necessarily your favorites or your least favorites. Maybe some picks you disagree with. Maybe characters you'd like move up or down a tier. Is your list completely different from mine? Probably. Tell me about how I'm a bad person for liking Hajime as a character and an antagonist, you know? But yeah, thank you for watching. I highly doubt you watched this far. I mean, this is a tier list video. I wouldn't be surprised if you just jumped to the end and you're listening to this bit as I'm scrolling up and down so you can see the fucking massive amount of people in this tier list. I mean, if I just like took these guys out, it'd be like so much simpler. You'd almost get the whole thing on the screen, but yeah, fucking hell, there's a lot of characters in this goddamn series, and I have a lot of opinions about a lot of them. But yeah, this will be one of the last dips into the series, won't it? I will have an update video, by the way, coming out soon about what we're going to do with talent development plan and Danganronpa S. But yeah, this is one of the last Danganronpa related things you're going to be getting from me. I say even though I haven't recorded Danganronpa S yet, so you will be getting an entire series from me in the future. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you like the video, leave a like. If you dislike the video, leave a dislike. Comment your opinions on shit, I guess. I mean, to be fair, I would prefer if instead of pressing the dislike button, you just told me that I'm stupid and that you dislike my opinions. But, you know, that's up to you guys. That's up to you. And yeah, I mean, subscribe, I guess, if you want more Danganronpa exclusively talent development plan content. So yeah, I'll see you guys around. If you're only here for Danganronpa, this will be one of the last times we see each other, I'm sure. But yeah, I do have some more series to be dipping my toes into soon. Again, relatively soon. So yeah, see you guys in another one.